Hi there. Today we're going to learn how to multiply integers using the rules. So, with different signs, the product of two integers with different signs is always negative. All right, so different signs, always negative. So, if you had positive times a negative, you would get a negative. If you had negative times a positive, you would get a negative. All right, so here's an example. 5 times negative 10. So you have a positive 5 times a negative 10, and you end up getting negative 50. All right, here are some more examples. So here you have 3 times negative 5. Okay, well, they're different signs, so my answer would be a negative, and 3 times 5 is just 15. Now here, I have negative 6 times positive 8. So I have negative times a positive. I know my answer is going to be a negative. 6 times 8 is 48. All right, here's another example. Now here we're going to take this step by step. So I have 9 times negative 2, which 9 times negative 2 gets me negative 18 because it's a positive times a negative. Now I have negative 18 times positive 1. Negative 18 times positive 1 is actually going to get me negative 18 again because it's a negative times a positive. All right, so let's try going over this problem again. You have a positive times a negative, negative 18. Then you just drop down that 1. Negative 18 times positive 1 is going to get me negative 18. Negative times positive, always negative. All right, and here is another example just like it. Let's break it down. So first we have negative 7 times 4. Negative 7 times 4, okay, well we have a negative times a positive, so right away I know my answer is going to be negative. And when you're multiplying 7 times 4, you get 28. Okay, and then I'm just going to drop down that times 1. So negative 28 times 1 is going to get me negative 28. Okay, so I have a negative times a positive, my answer is going to be negative. So I just took it one step at a time. All right, why don't you guys pause the video and try doing these problems on your own? By now you should have already done these problems on your own. Now we're going to go over them. 4 times negative 5. I have a positive times a negative. My answer is going to be negative. 4 times 5 is 20. Here I have negative times a positive. Again, my answer is going to be negative. Different signs, always negative. Negative 10 times 2 is negative 20. All right, here I have negative 3 times 6 times 1. Let's break it down nice and slow. Negative 3 times 6. Well, negative times a positive is negative. And times 6. So I have negative 3 times 6 is 18. Times 1 gets me negative 18. Negative times a positive, always negative. And the last one, we have 7 times negative 3. Let's worry about those two numbers first. Since it's a positive times a negative, we're going to get negative 21 for our answer. Positive 7 times negative 3, negative 21. These two signs are different, so our answer here has to be negative. And then we just bring down that 1, and you have negative 20 times a positive 1, and you end up getting negative 21. All right, with the same signs, the product of two integers with the same sign is positive. So two integers with the same sign is always positive. So you could get either positive times positive is a positive answer. You all know that. Or you could get negative times negative, which will also give you a positive answer. So here is an example of that negative negative. Negative 5 times negative 2 equals positive 10. Okay? Negative times a negative gets you positive. Let's try going over some examples. Negative 6 times negative 5 gets me positive 30. Negative 4 squared is the same thing as saying negative 4 times negative 4, which is actually 16. Negative times a negative gets you positive. Okay, don't get that square mixed up. Negative 2 times negative 3. Negative times a negative, you're going to end up getting a positive 6. And then here, negative times a negative, again, gets you a positive number. 4 times 5 is just 20. All right, and now I want you to try pausing the video and try doing these last examples on your own. When you're done, you can come back to the video. Okay, by now you should have already answered the questions, so we're going to go over them together. Negative 6 times negative 3. Negative times a negative gets you positive. 6 times 3 is 18. Here we have negative 5 squared. Okay, well that is actually the same thing as saying negative 5 times negative 5, which 5 times 5 is 25. Since these two are both negative, your answer is going to be positive. All right, here we have one of those problems that have the 3 answers. So negatives are the 3 numbers that you're multiplying. Negative 7 times negative 5 gets me positive 35 times a positive 1. My answer is still going to be 35. So again, negative times a negative gets me a positive. Positive times positive is going to get me positive. Okay, and here we have negative 1 times negative 8, or negative 1 times negative 8. So we have 2 negatives. Again, your answer is going to be positive. 1 times 8 is just 8. All right, so some concluding remarks. So some concluding remarks. When you multiply two numbers, two numbers with the same sign, your answer will always be positive. When you multiply two numbers with different signs, your answer will always be negative. All right, that's all for today. Hopefully you learned how to multiply integers.